There she is. What's happening? Woo, let me turn on.
Morning.
How are you?
Doing all right. You? I know it was a long weekend for you.
Long weekend, and then today and tomorrow I'm doing WOAI. I think you know that. So yeah, I'm plus Spurs tonight and Spurs tomorrow night. And I got a sister-in-law coming in from Galveston who wants to have dinner tomorrow. And I said, there's a Spurs game. I can't do dinner. Oh, then we'll do it at 4. Okay. Sure. I got nothing but time on my hands.
That's right. So did you know about them letting everyone know ahead of time that they had made it already?
I did not know about that. Are you talking about Drew?
Yeah, we'll have to give him a hard time when we get him back on.
Absolutely.
He did a great job.
He did. And in retrospect, you think back to that interview, I mean, he was quite confident.
I mean, I did an entire question of like, you going to Tampa, you got to stay in your room.
Yeah. But yeah, when I saw that video, I said, okay, wait a minute. That's at the Cowboys facility. That's not Tampa.
And then the Peyton one when he was in Denver.
Yeah,
I was
that
like,
was
wait
cool.
a minute. Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Who's taking the day off because it's the Monday after the Super Bowl?
God, I wish I could take the day
Can
off.
I be you?
At least we get to talk about the Super Bowl, even though
Right.
we're bleary-eyed and tired. Stayed up late. And then, I'm a freak. I'm reveling in – I had to go to the NFL Network afterwards and watch all their coverage late into the night. And now no football till August. God help us.
Richard, I will always pick against Tom.
The horror. Let's see. Anthony Del Toro is in here. Foam Foot 420. AC Gonzalez. John Williams. Hector Gomez. Richard Flores. Man, Richard out of the gate going after Shannon. What is up with that, Richard? Come on.
Always go against Tom.
Wow.
And you know what? He didn't have an O-line.
Yeah, there is some kind of a minor league football, spring football thing coming. But it's so minor, I know very little about it, Anthony, and I usually pay close attention to things like that. Here we go.
Now, Chris Duel.
It is the day after the Super Bowl. Most of us bleary-eyed, if you're up at this hour, having stayed up late, watched the Super Bowl, watched halftime, watched the commercials. And if you're a total freak and you just can't let the football season go, like me, then when CBS went to, I guess, the Equalizer with Queen Latifah, then I went over to the NFL Network where I could see Michael Irvin and company still do even more post-game and interview more Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It is the Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney and prognosticator and soothsayer Jeremy Fouts. We'll get into that. Jeremy, the only person picking a Tampa Bay blowout victory. Shannon, I think everybody across America, some people picked Tampa Bay to win, but Jeremy Fouts had the final score at 100-0, and he wasn't horribly far off with that final score.
Yeah, I think everybody got so caught up in Patrick versus Tom that they thought it's going to be a close one, and it just wasn't.
And technically, and we'll welcome him and congratulate Jeremy Fouts. Jeremy, you also, your 100-0 prediction for the final score also assumed that Kansas City would score no touchdowns. You were correct. Kansas City scored no touchdowns.
Yeah, it probably felt like 100-0 blowout. I know they had some points there, but there was a little room for discrepancy. But this fancy scroll here,
yes,
had the answer. So thank you, Ramses II, the great pharaoh, for having this in your tomb, so I could take it and find out the winner of the Super Bowl.
You got to love, Shannon, that Jeremy Fouts goes into the tomb of Ramses II inside the Great Pyramid to find that scroll that gave him the Super Bowl winner.
I mean, I wish you would have taken me with you because I wouldn't have had to go through all this heartbreak.
And Shannon, if you would have said to me, the Chiefs are not going to score a touchdown, Patrick Mahomes is not going to get the Chiefs into the end zone, I would have bet everything. Bet the house, bet the car, bet any future earnings. No way that's going to happen. That was jaw-droppingly stunning the way that played out.
I mean, he looked like a little tiny dancer out there on the field, just scrambling, and throwing up a prayer almost every time they tried to get the ball even 10 yards down the field. And a couple of them bounced off the face masks of his own players. They just couldn't reel it in. I think there probably would have been 2 touchdowns at least for them on the board had they have made those catches. But Mahomes tried to work his magic. It just wasn't going well for him. Kansas City was short on the offensive line. You could definitely tell Cowboys fans know all too well how that goes. And defensively, they also penalties, man. Over 100 yards worth of penalties for the Chiefs. Holding. They just couldn't get it together on either side last night.
You talk about Patrick Mahomes scrambling. Somebody added up all the yards laterally that he was scrambling and back forth, 475 yards of scrambling. Now, granted, not all beyond the line of scrimmage, but someone just added up all of his steps and he scrambled for 475 yards last night.
Yeah, for a guy with turf toe, he did a lot of backward scrambling, and it's probably worst case scenario for him last night with the O-line he was given.
Well, before Shannon tells you the poll question for today, let me just lay out how you can be a part of the show. We'd love to hear from you this morning, and you can also react in a moment to what the poll question is and the implications thereof. First of all, the phone number, anytime we don't have a guest, and we don't have any guests until the 8 o'clock hour. In fact, at 8:06, we'll bring Tanner Carlson in here, our 1200 WOAI football freak, and Andy Everett, the voice of UTSA Athletics, his thoughts on the Super Bowl. We'll talk some college hoops as well. Speaking of college hoops, we'll get into it. The Longhorns' tough double overtime loss to Oklahoma State. How concerning should that be? We'll get into that as well. So Andy Everett at 8:35, Tanner Carlson 8:06. But until then, you're welcome to jump in here on the phone lines at any time. 800-707-9760. We will be doing the giveaway. In fact, first time in about 4 minutes, the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. We'll do that at 6:20 and at 7:20. We are streaming live video on 1200 W. Excuse me, I was just down the hall. I do that every time, Shannon, for people wondering why I'm an idiot this morning, and I'm an idiot most mornings, I know. But I did the first hour of 1200 WOAI's morning news in San Antonio, and from 5 to 6, and I do that again tomorrow. So you'll probably hear me throw out OAI's phone numbers or call letters again, like I just did. 800-707-9760. We are streaming live video, not on WOAI, but on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook pages. You can join us there, like Tracy Bogert, Clint Proctor, Hector Gomez, John Williams joining us out of Dallas. Who else do I see? Cody Webb, Anthony Del Toro, and Richard Flores. His first thing is to jump in here and give you some crap, Shannon. What's up with that?
Well, because I'm a Tom Brady hater, and of course, Tom Brady ultimately won the game last night for his 7th ring, which leads us to our poll question for the day. We're asking, who is the greater GOAT? Tom Brady, Michael Jordan. So far, Tom Brady is leading this one, but it is pretty close, 58 to 42% on our poll. A lot of people's argument for Michael is he never lost in the finals. But I don't,
But by the way, Michael Jordan played more than 6 seasons, and I kind of find that argument like. And some people go, "Well, Joe Montana was 4-0 in Super Bowls. Brady's only 7-3." Well, I like it when you get to the Super Bowl. I think that's pretty darn impressive. And by the way, when he wasn't in Super Bowls, Montana was losing in the NFC Championship game or in the divisional playoffs. So. It's pretty impressive, I would say, to get to 10 Super Bowls.
Right.
And I gotta go Brady now. I up until now, I think that argument was valid. But now Brady's done a whole new thing now, going to another team. That team had not made the playoffs the year before. That team was generally, and I know they won one Super Bowl back in the Chucky era, but, the Buccaneers have generally been a hapless franchise. So I gotta, and again, we say this a lot, but once again, Brady wins the divorce with Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots, and Robert Kraft. So Shannon, in today's poll, and again, we can open it up to all GOATs. And we did that, a week or two ago. We talked about Tiger Woods and Wayne Gretzky and other GOATs in other sports, Serena Williams. But man, I especially at age 43, playing at this high level, I got to vote Tom Brady.
I voted Tom as well, as much as it pains me to say. He is the GOAT. He is the greatest GOAT. I will always continue to go against him. Someone on our Facebook feed made the point of he's kind of like Floyd Mayweather. He just always wins. Everyone always goes against him, but he always finds a way to win. And that's Mr. Tom Brady. And I watched the game last night, but the second that clock hit 0, I turned it off. I did not need to see him hold up another Lombardi trophy.
I am, when I don't like the opponents, I am that way. When I am pulling for a specific team, especially if it's my team, and it's been a long time since the Cowboys were, defeated in a meaningful playoff NFC Championship or Super Bowl. But like when the Astros lose and get eliminated, when the Spurs get eliminated, I kind of have the same feeling you have for Tom Brady, for the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Can't stand him. Klay Thompson, I can take him or leave him. And when Kevin Durant was a Golden State Warrior, I would watch the NBA Finals when they would win the title, just like you. Click. I watch the whole game. I'll watch the whole series. But when it's over, I'm out. I don't need to see the celebration.
Well, and I don't know about you, but the game itself, as someone who had no real heart in it, I was hoping the game itself would be better than it was. It really wasn't that great of a game unless you are a Bucs fan and love defense.
And I'm not a Bucs fan, but I was pulling for Brady, and I kept saying with Mahomes, and we learned this the hard way. If you're a Texans fan in playoffs a year ago, no lead is safe against Mahomes. So even in the fourth quarter, down 22 early in the fourth, I'm thinking, all right, Mahomes is still going to take him down the field and get a bunch of touchdowns, but that did not happen. Tell you what we'll do real quick, though. As I mentioned, we do this at 6:20, at 7:20. We do it 12 times throughout the day. At 20 minutes after the hour, your chance to win some big cash. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest, and it goes a little bit something like this.
Give you money.
Laura Burris.
$1,000 is right now. Text the nationwide keyword pay to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's pay to 200-200. Good luck.
Thank you and good luck. And by the way, I'm noticing on Facebook Live, our two biggest Patrick Mahomes partisans, and both of them went to Texas Tech, and I get it. If I went to Texas Tech, I'd be all into Mahomes, and so I totally get it. But Wes Perkins and Clint Proctor printed up Patrick Mahomes GOAT T-shirts specifically for the Super Bowl. But Wes Perkins is in here on Facebook Live saying, "All hail the GOAT. Patrick Mahomes has not been whipped like that since Iowa State in 2016, I think. Mad props to the Bucs and their defense, Brady and that running game." And Clint Proctor says, "Chris predicted very well. Cheers to you. Mahomes will be back." Yeah, Mahomes will be back. But every time I hear that, and I do believe he will, Shannon, but I keep bringing up Dan Marino because when Marino lost his only Super Bowl appearance, he was very young in his second year, and everybody said, "Oh, it's okay. Marino's going to be back to so many Super Bowls." And as great as Mahomes is, Shannon, so many things have to go right, even for a great quarterback to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, tell it to Dan Fouts. Tell it to so many great quarterbacks that are at. I mean, Tony Romo, he wasn't elite, but he was a darn good quarterback. And until the broadcast booth last night, never sniffed a Super Bowl. So while we all expect Mahomes to be back, a lot of things have to go right to get there.
Right. I mean, and just like we said, the offensive line alone, I mean, they got rid of a lot of players previously because they were so expensive, and they brought in these other guys. Half of them get hurt, and then they're down 2 starters for the Super Bowl, and then they're working with what they have left. So that clearly was an impact on last night's game. And then just looking for the future, there's a lot of big names on that team. Pat Mahomes already has his big payday, and that's going to hurt them in the long run with cap space when it comes to guys like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and other names on that team that have played really well for them. They're going to want to get paid and get their dues. And whether or not they say, "I'm willing to take a pay cut to get that chance at another Super Bowl ring," or "I'm going to head elsewhere," that's completely up to them. And in the future, that, Mahomes may get there, but you think of Tom Brady and his journey and how he's gotten to the Super Bowl. He kind of has gotten there with odds and ends over the years, and they've always been different odds and ends. The only consistent seems to really be Gronk, and Gronk wasn't even there for his first Super Bowl. So coming down the stretch here, it's going to be interesting to see what players decide to do as far as whether or not they want to stay with Kansas and just how badly they do when it comes to their pay.
You mentioned Gronk. What a night for Gronk. He didn't make I expected Gronk to make more of an impact during the regular season.
2 touchdowns during the regular season.
Yeah.
How many did he get last night?
2. So, when I heard Gronk's coming to Tampa to be with Brady, I thought, all right, everybody else is a new wide receiver for Brady. The guy he knows is Gronk. Gronk's going to be his safety valve in the same way that, Jason Witten was the safety valve for Dak early in Dak's career. I get it. There's a dude you're familiar with, especially at that tight end position getting open. I'll check down. I'll throw this guy the ball. But man, oh man, to see these two do what we're used to seeing them do in Super Bowls, Brady to Gronkowski, a little deja vu going on last night between those two.
Yeah, I actually had Gronk on my fantasy team, and the rest were KC players. So he's the only guy that really did anything for me, which, again, annoying. But maybe not as annoying as seeing Antonio Brown get a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That guy.
Yeah, and he's a guy who was out throughout the playoffs, and throughout the week we heard he was questionable. Would he play? And, yeah, maybe the biggest jerk currently in the NFL, Antonio Brown gets a touchdown, gets a ring. And finally, after just imploding with the Steelers, imploding with the Raiders, going to the Patriots for a game and getting a touchdown pass and then criticizing the owner. Pretty amazing that Antonio Brown gets a touchdown. We will talk more Super Bowl. We got to talk about the halftime show and the weekend. We'll get into that, Super Bowl commercials, and everything else in the world of sports. Drew Pearson getting into the Hall of Fame. We'll talk about that. Longhorns losing in double overtime over the weekend to Oklahoma State. Spurs in action tonight. Whole lot going on. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He is the soothsayer, the only human being on the face of this earth who picked a Tampa Bay blowout. Okay, his final score 100-0 was a little off, but not that far. Not that far. Jeremy Fouts, Put some respect on his name, people. Maybe he's the GOAT of prognosticators. Quick break. Lots more coming. We're with you till 9. We got GOATs on board. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. Yeah, I just saw Will Guzman says, rest in peace, mom passed away Saturday morning. Will, I am so sorry to hear that, man. My prayers with you, your family. That's so very sad. I'm so sorry for you and your family going through that. Corey Wooten saying, hating, it's bad radio. That was fantastic history made in front of our eyes. Corey, nobody's hating here, man. Yeah, Shannon, I just saw what you wrote in the private chat. I had not clicked on that until just now. See how hot my coffee is. Do I need to microwave my coffee? Yeah, Shannon, is there music associated with that? Is there something that is there a music bed or something Jeremy needs to have that we need to hook him up with? Okay, yeah, I will when he steps back in the studio, I will have him look for that. You want to do like since we got guests at 8 and 8:35, let's do like 7:40 on that. And
the back half of the 7:30.
Say again?
Back half of the 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll talk on, and I know I want to get to that point, and I apologize for the last 2 weeks. I've just been
No, I get it. It's been crazy, especially for you.
But yeah, I mean, eventually we need to figure out. And my hardest time is because we float different guests at different times. But I know we ideally need a specific recurring time for that, for sports history, sports birthdays, and for sports future, which I want to do more of. Let me tell Jeremy in the private chat on StreamYard, Shannon's looking for a Jackson 5 song, and we'll run that. She's going to do a segment with that as kind of bed music at around 7:40-ish. So you've got over an hour to find it. No pressure. And if you can't find it, let us know, and we'll come up with an alternative music bed. Let's see.
Did they fire the cannons last night?
They did at the end, yes.
Okay.
See, if you wouldn't have turned off the television.
Well, I was confused because it looked like the Weeknd stage was on that same size. I didn't know if his stage was in front of the boat or next to it.
I'm not sure where the boat was in with respect to the stage. I couldn't tell from the video either.
Foamfoot, I think The Weeknd spent most of his money on all the performers he had with him. Because those guys get paid, unlike the actual talent, all the dancers they use. And he had a lot, especially when they were all on the field. It was like an army of little Weekends running around.
Carl Fisher says, I did my own video of Tom Brady. Carl, you'll have to send me a link.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Axel J. Miller says Cliff Branch should be on the next Hall of Fame ballot. I agree with that, Axel. And, Axel, I think we talked about this, and certainly Paul Alexander brought it up on Friday. Hall of Fame, one of the criteria is how many big impact plays did you make? And, Cliff Branch was on a par with Drew Pearson, I truly believe. So I'm with you on Cliff Branch. And again, he's another guy, same era, got to be a very similar age. Drew is 70 years old. And same team, catching a lot of those balls from Ken Stabler. Don't do to Cliff Branch what you did to Ken Stabler and put him in after he's dead. Yeah,
Chris,
we'll talk about the weekend here, Axel, but I'm kind of with you.
Chris, I don't know if you saw this, but someone tagged us, Andy Spell, on Twitter. He's got a question. Which was more impressive in first year with new team, Brady's Super Bowl win with the Bucs or Kawhi's title win with the Raptors?
Wow, that's interesting. I got to go Brady because the Raptors were always kind of on the cusp in the Eastern Conference. It's a great question. Thanks for pointing that out to me. You write him back if I have time. So, Shannon, we'll address Andy Spell's question, and then we'll move into the weekend and halftime.
Sounds
here.
good.
Yeah, Mattress Mac wins his bet, 3-point-something million.
Yeah, he won 6.18 off of that.
6.18. Wow.
Yeah, so almost double.
Yikes. Yeah, I saw somebody wrote, could Mattress Mac please buy the Houston Texans?
Well, so the deal is he always has a special for his store, right? When he makes these big bets that he's hoping that he can then afford after the fact.
Yeah.
I think it was like a $3,000 rebate or something for matches. So he said he was interviewed after the game last night, and he said, with the money I made, I'm able to pay off my, what I did for the customers, and then I still have a little bit left over.
Wow.
But yeah,
Andy
he should buy the Texans.
Andy gets an interview after the game. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, the publicity there.
I made $7 on FanDuel.
Woo! Nice.
Drafted team, my free entry. So
very nice.
Feel good about myself. It's not 6 million.
But hey, you're on plus side. A lot of people probably aren't this morning.
Yeah, I was in a million things. I was in the top 10%.
Day after the Super Bowl. Welcome in. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, soundscape stylist and soothsayer, and swashbuckling archaeologist, Jeremy Fouts. Who was it? Ramses II? Where did you get the scroll with the prophecy of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I had to do a lot of digging. I had to join the Irish Mafia. I went all over the world, but ultimately it was in the tomb of Pharaoh Ramses II.
Now, joining the Irish Mafia, in fact, I saw your video on the Blue Collar Sports Dad show yesterday, and you had to get a lot of tattoos. Very impressive. Now, what is the Irish Mafia's connection to enable you to get the sacred scroll of Ramses II?
They had free food.
Free food, okay.
So I just wanted to join to get that out of the way.
Nice.
Then I could pay for the plane ticket to Egypt, but I had to go to Ireland first. It was really complicated.
Okay. Well, but hey, long as and again, if you were listening to the show last week, Jeremy predicted a Buccaneers win in a blowout, and he was only a little bit off on the score. He had 100-0. It was 31-9. Shannon, well, and by the way, you can tweet at us, and we got a very interesting question on Twitter from Andy Spell, but let me throw out the Twitter handles in case you want to do that. Shannon is on Twitter at Shannon B. Sweeney. Jeremy is on Twitter for any archaeology questions about the Irish Mafia or Egyptology or sports. Jeremy is on Twitter at SATX Foxy Grandpa. I am on Twitter at Chris Duel, and of course you've got at Ticket 760 and at AM 1300 The Zone for all of your sports needs. But Andy Spell, and thank you, Shannon, for calling this to my attention because I was on another page. Andy Spell asks the question, which was more impressive in his first year with the team, Tom Brady's Super Bowl with the Bucs or Kawhi Leonard's title with the Toronto Raptors? Shannon, how would you answer that question?
It's a fantastic question. I'm always going to pick the Super Bowl. I just think it's a rougher and tougher game. It just has so much more weight to it, and it's best of one. It's not best of seven. And so for those reasons, I'm gonna say Tom Brady. But both were exceptional and impressive.
Yeah, and I wrote Andy back on Twitter a few moments ago, and I would go Brady because, and granted, I'm a little biased with Kawhi Leonard and what he did to my Spurs. Not that I'm bitter.
Well, and then he went and did it to the Raptors too,
yeah,
right?
That's true. But okay, I am bitter. But the Raptors, before Kawhi Leonard got there, were really kind of knocking on the door year in, year out in the Eastern Conference. He had a great supporting cast. So they were a perennial playoff team and a team that often went deep in the Eastern Conference. So it was almost as if Kawhi Leonard was kind of the icing on the cake, and it was already a pretty good cake for the Toronto Raptors, whereas the Buccaneers did not go to the playoffs last year, rarely went to the playoffs, certainly in the Jameis Winston era, and have kind of been a perennial laughing stock of a football team. So the whole Tom Brady legacy, and I know you can't stand him, Shannon, but I think it just goes to a whole new level now that he was, and the fact he did this in his first year with Tampa Bay. If he did it, a lot of people thought, well, it's going to take him half a year just to get used to that team, new offense, new personnel, new terminology. And a lot of people said, well, next year they're really going to be good. For him to do this in year one and as a wild card team and going on the road and winning 3 to get to your home stadium in Tampa Bay for the Super Bowl, I think all the more impressive.
Yeah. And they did say, they were kind of piecing that team together as the season went along, and they just kind of eventually hit their stride and kept getting better and better. And ultimately won it when it mattered most. It makes me think back to just a couple of years ago when the Bucks were on Hard Knocks, and the rules for getting on Hard Knocks are that you pretty much have to be next to last in the league for eligibility, because if you've gone to the postseason 2 seasons in a row, you're not eligible, this, that, and the other. And they always play it up, right? Because they want you to root for that team going into the season. They have all these great stories. Look at these players. Look at these coaches. Look at all the hard work they've put in the off season. And that team is completely different than what you saw on the field last night, right? New head coach, new quarterback, new big names on the outside and on the defensive line. And that's the team that ultimately did it. But it was just a few short years ago. They were the laughing stock.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Shannon, halftime show, the weekend. So funniest line I heard somebody say, it was the first time I couldn't wait for the weekend to be over.
Oh,
my first thought was, is there something wrong with the sound? My first thought,
he did everything completely live. Usually they pre-record a live that plays under just in case anything goes wrong, and so the mixing was a bit off last night.
I was not loving the mix. I thought his vocals were really buried throughout most of the performance, and I was. Granted, he's not my dude. I listened to a lot of his music over the weekend to get ready for it. What struck me was, I think of other acts that have done the Super Bowl, like Beyonce, like Prince, like The Who, like the first Brady Super Bowl, it was U2 and Bono. And so many of those other people just oozed charisma. I just don't see the same charisma level. He's very talented. He's aight, but I was not blown away by his performance last night.
Yeah, I don't know that he's much of a performer more than he is just a singer and a songwriter. It wasn't horrible. I think everyone, when you watch those Super Bowl performances, you're waiting for it the moment, whether it's a special guest coming out or them doing something we just haven't seen before. And I don't think we ever really got that. I was kind of confused. I thought he was going to stay on that stage the whole time after it had been so long. And then all of a sudden he ends up on the field with hundreds of versions of him marching around and chanting during Blinding Lights. I think that's where the extra 7 million went, because I couldn't find it anywhere else. I'm just assuming it went to all the dancers and musicians he had with him on that stage last night. But a mediocre performance. I wouldn't put it up there as one of my all-time faves, but considering what he had to work with, everyone seemed pretty social distance except for when they were in that Hall of Mirrors bumping into each other nonstop.
Yeah.
I think he did pretty well for what he had to work with. But yeah, it ended and it felt short to me. I literally turned to my family and said, "Was that it?"
Yeah. Jeremy, did you see halftime? Did you see the weekend?
I did. I agree with Shannon. I spent $7 million of my own money in that performance, and it was fine. Maybe it went to hiring the burn victim unit to dance with him. Is there a reason everyone was dressed like that? I didn't understand.
Well, one, they had the masks that allowed them to have masks, but it was part of the outfit. And when he started the current album he has out now, After Hours, he came out all bandaged up and then has gone through a phase.
So it's a promotion thing?
Right. And it's also interesting to note, most of the time these Super Bowl performances have been made for television because that's where the greater audience is. His performance to me seemed like it was made for the people there. He kept shouting out Tampa, wanting them to sing, pointing to the crowd, even though there was only halfway filled, right? It looked a lot more full thanks to all those cardboard cutouts. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of people complaining about how full the stadium was. I don't know that they all realized that it was full of cardboard cutouts, but it just didn't seem like a made for TV performance.
When you talk about the $7 million, and somebody said when he's first like coming out of the or whoever was coming out of the sky,
I didn't get that
performance. Then you saw somebody said that was a choir of robots. I didn't realize that was robots. I figured that was performers. What was that? Robots at the beginning? The choir of robots? Were you aware of that?
I think they were real people because when he came out to start singing, I was looking behind him and they did have the red lights, but they all had on face shields.
Okay.
So I think they were real people, but I did hear someone mention robots, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If that's where the 7 million went, I think I think someone did him dirty with that and should have said, "Hey, man, that ain't it."
Well, and you pointed out, Shannon, off the air just now, and this is why people should watch Facebook Live, because you're privy to our conversations off the air during the breaks. But the $7 million to pay that many performers who have to be talented, who have to be dancers and performers, and they're typically union employees, and he had a lot of them. That'll eat up a lot of money pretty quickly. You need them for a week at least. You need to choreograph, you need to rehearse, and they need to be very, very talented, and they don't come for free.
Yeah, I feel bad for him that they had to do it during COVID and that they were all bandaged up. Mom, I'm performing at the Super Bowl. Oh, baby, which one are you? Shoot, I can't even find myself. Like, I don't know, 30-yard line. Well, which one?
Yeah, exactly. That was me.
Yeah. Can't you tell?
Sam Tobias says, I would think the halftime show was closer to $700,000, not the amount the weekend claimed he spent. And that is a little, he did kind of set us up for that expectation as well, Shannon.
Right.
When you go public and say, I'm spending $7 million of my own money on this, that was top of mind for me when we got to halftime. I was like, all right, let me just buckle in here and get ready to be dazzled, because the weekend is pumping in $7 million of his own money. This should be extra special. So I think part of it, first of all, any Super Bowl halftime show, there's a high expectation going in just because of everything we've seen over the years. But yeah, I think he kind of added to it by putting that out there Super Bowl week.
Absolutely. And again, when I say that performance looked like it was meant for the crowd there and not the crowd on TV, I would bet good money that the stage setup he had with the high rises and all the people, and I couldn't even read what it was lighting up behind him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just announced his tour, if that setup was his stage tour for this next tour, and that he kind of gets some of that $7 million back by bringing that out with him, because other than that, he was just him on the field later, and there was nothing else on the field. Yeah.
And again, though, know your audience and know your venue. And part of the big deal there is to perform for television. I mean, your audience really is the millions and millions and millions of people who are tuning in on TV.
And the Hall of Mirrors has now become a meme that's blown up all over social media. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out, because they're pretty hilarious. The way he's like walking around, not knowing where he's going. Obviously, he's acting at that point, but it's pretty entertaining this morning. I've been reading them during breaks. It's fantastic.
Foamfoot 420 on Facebook Live says the masks that the dancers were wearing looked like jock straps on their face. Do you think that's what they were going for, Shannon?
It's just part of the football theme. That's all.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, it was football. So any Super Bowl commercials jump out at you as remarkable or impressive or ridiculous?
I thought the Paramount Plus ones were pretty funny.
They were fun.
I liked that they kept you interested because it was a series. I'm really curious how much money they paid to have an entire series of commercials. I think we've maybe seen that before, but yeah, I mean, the first one alone with Snooki, walking behind them, going up the giant Paramount mountain. I'm too hungover for this. I got a kick out of that.
Yeah, and the first one was so good, and you're right, when it would come back and you go, oh, it's a new one, it had our attention. So yeah, I think Paramount won the night. It was, although it was a weird commercial, it was kind of fun seeing Matthew McConaughey in the Doritos 3D chips.
Can I just say?
Yes.
Doritos 3D chips are not new.
Ooh.
They're just back. They were a late 90s, early 2000s treat. They came in a can at that point. And everyone's treating them like they are brand spanking new. No, us 90s kids have been begging for those to come back for the longest time. And they're not new. They're not new. That's my point. They're not new. Stop treating them like they're brand new.
If you've been begging for them to come back for the longest time, you must be very, very happy they're back.
Yes, but I have not seen them in store. I mean, I only go to HEB like every other week, so I'll have to look the next time I'm there.
They better be in stores after you rolled out McConaughey on the Super Bowl ad for 3D chips. Yeah.
From a 2D McConaughey to a 3D McConaughey, or vice versa, whichever it was.
Drake in the State Farm commercial was kind of funny.
Yeah, my mom thought that was Usher.
Usher
Is that
Drake.
Usher? And I tweeted that, and State Farm hit me back, and they were like, "Oops." So yeah, I think I failed if my mom thinks that Drake is Usher, and vice versa. But whatever.
Yeah, I liked Will Ferrell in the GM commercials headed to Norway. That was kind of funny. Will Ferrell always cracks me up.
Will Ferrell's great. The M&M's commercial I thought was great, with everyone giving people M&Ms for any small inconvenience that they've had to put up with.
I love
even
the
though it's part of their
line.
job.
I love the line when she says, "I'm sorry I called you Karen," and she goes, "My name is Karen," and she gives her another. "I'm sorry, your name is Karen."
That is, yeah. That if you want to wrap 20 up in a meme, that would be it.
Not a good year to be named Karen. I feel bad for everybody who's actually named Karen, especially after courtside Karen last week.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really kept it going. You would think it would have died down by now, but I think Karens are here to stay.
Yeah. And I still am very interested. Oh, and by the way, we talked about it last week when LeBron was slamming the All-Star game that the NBA is planning for Atlanta.
More big names on that list now.
Kawhi, who we brought up earlier. Kawhi's now joined the fray.
Giannis.
You got to wonder if there's a tipping point of NBA players who say no, no, no. You got to wonder if the league will capitulate to the players and certainly the stars. It's going to be interesting to see if that keeps going this week.
Right, because begrudgingly these players will go because that's the agreement they made, that if they are selected, they will go and play. But if they're not going to be there mentally, I mean, what's the point? I mean, everyone loves to watch those events because they like to see the players interact and have fun with each other. But if they're just worn out and tired and are abiding by COVID rules, who's going to want to watch that?
Yeah. And if they continue to be outspoken, if it continues and the NBA says, no, we're going to do it because we're going to make money for the league and we're going to make money for the networks. And if LeBron and Kawhi and everybody and Giannis and everybody, even in Atlanta during media availabilities go, we could really use the time off. We don't want to be here. That's going to be interesting. I think it'll be the first time a league put on an all-star game and the players there vocally don't want to be there.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing the players have going for them right now is that they started the season being told there was not going to be an all-star game. And then all of a sudden there is.
Yeah, that's kind of wrong. Especially, I mean, LeBron has a good point. They had a 71-day offseason, both those teams that played in the finals. All right. Lots of other things happened in sports. We'll get to that as well. Longhorns' tough double overtime loss over the weekend at Oklahoma State. Spurs play tonight, NBA, Major League Baseball. We'll jump into everything. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Jeremy Fouts. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out. It's the Chris Duel Show. Richard DeCastro, Alan Green, Tracy Bogert. Jamie Wood says technology is expensive. True. Andy, welcome in. Yeah, Andy makes a good point about the Raptors. Yeah, the Warriors were quite injured in that series. Yvonne Yancey McGowan, welcome. Luisa Alanis. Vince G. Gonzalez, welcome in. I am going to grab my second hit of coffee. Steve DiRocco, The Rock, the original Rock, and co-founder of the San Antonio Polar Bear Club, as seen on Facebook. Good morning. Alan Green, good morning. I'll be back in about 90 seconds. Got my coffee. I bring in my own damn coffee. I'm not like Shannon Sweeney with that Dunkin' app where they got her coffee waiting for her as she drives to work in the morning. I have to labor with my K-Cup. Is that what it's called?
I'm high maintenance.
K-Cup maker, whatever the hell it is. Woo!
Okay, someone said the original 3Ds came in a bag. These are what they came in back in my day. And you would pour it into the cup.
Yes. See, there you go, Shannon. You're already saying back in my day. You're going to be an old person like me eventually.
I mean, if they keep bringing stuff back that was only 20 years ago.
We had 3D Doritos, damn it. All right, I'll be right back.
Richard asked what we think of Drake's hair. You mean the little heart he had? Thought that was nice. Oh, see, I never saw them in bags. That or my heart just wanted them to be in the cool containers because I thought that was pretty nifty. Worst halftime show ever, James Pellman says. I don't know. I thought Maroon 5's was pretty close. At least the weekend had things to look at. I'd still see him live, though. I mean, the behind him on the actual stage with everything that was lighting up. We do say the worst halftime show every year because people have these high expectations, even though they can't articulate what they actually want to see. If it's not your favorite artist performing, then you're gonna think it's the worst halftime show ever. I'm biased, right? JT will always be the best to me, but I know a lot of people who hated it, and that's okay. Yeah, Sam, Tom wants to play to 45, probably play past it at this point.
Yeah, Sam, I don't know if I'm seeing what you wrote about Brady. I don't know if Shannon addressed this to you or not while I was out, but yeah, he said during the week that he'd play past 45 if he felt good. So yeah, Brady will definitely be back, barring some injury we don't foresee. James Pellman, welcome in. Oh, I need to send something here.
Timothy, what do you want a shout out for?
Beth Settle, good morning.
Want me to wish you a happy Monday, Timothy? Your B-Day, Timothy. There you go. Happy birthday.
Whose birthday,
Sorry,
Timothy?
it's on a Monday.
Oh, cool. I hope I can pronounce your name correctly, Timothy. We'll give you a shout out on the air. Ladia, how would you pronounce Timothy's last name, Shannon?
Lydia? That sounds right.
Ladia is my best guess. Timothy, if we're way off, give it to us phonetically and we'll give it a shot. Yeah, we haven't talked about Drew Pearson on the air yet, Louisa, but absolutely. So happy for him. Sorry, now Timothy wrote it's Laja. Now, is that Leja or is that Leja? I'm even having a harder time pronouncing it now. I might, since I'll butcher it, Timothy, I might say Timothy L. Frank Ramirez, good morning. Rudy, good morning. Rudy's called into the show before. Good to see you, Rudy.
Tom Brady now has more Super Bowl wins than any NFL franchise.
That is so crazy. Including the Patriots.
Right, because they only have 6.
Right. That, my God, that's just a crazy statistic. James Pellman. Wow, James Pellman says worst halftime show ever. That's a great topic. We'd have to go back and look at them. Say what? Yes. Very good. I appreciate your sacrificing yourself for the show. Wes Perkins about to get his daily Bill Miller's coffee. So I'm guessing Bill Miller's coffee is good, Wes, if you get it every morning. Yeah, Gordon, I think the best performance was Prince, personally. But yeah, U2, Beth and I were there for the U2 was Tom Brady's first Super Bowl in New Orleans at the Superdome. I was there for that. Wes Perkins says worst was the Who. I don't remember the Who being bad, but again, Wes, since I'm of the generation that grew up with the Who, I'm biased there. But I thought Prince was spectacular. Axel J. Miller, hashtag Black History Month. Amen. We need to talk more about that. We don't mention that enough. I'm glad you brought it up, Axel. And speaking of performers, and I'm not familiar with her. The woman who did America the Beautiful, she was pretty darn. I mean, to me, that performance was more remarkable than the Weeknd
alone.
Say again?
The guitar, like she was shredding.
Yeah, she was like, she was Prince-like. Yeah. Day after the Super Bowl. The good news, it was a Super Bowl. Most of us enjoyed it, except for Shannon. Shannon hated it because her boy Tom Brady won. Tom Brady's not her boy. She doesn't like Tommy touchdown. I was happy. I said when I was over on 1200 WOAI this morning, I said it's the way I think Tom Brady winning, Shannon, it's a victory for anybody over 40. It's a victory for old people. Old people everywhere should rejoice. It's the way I feel.
Well, let's get this straight. I'm not a Tom Brady hater. I'm not hating on Tom Brady.
You kind of sound like you're hating on Tom Brady.
Because I accept that he's the GOAT.
And you said, I will pull against him no matter what.
I will pull against him no matter what, because like you are for the older, I am for the younger. I want people to get jobs they deserve.
So
it's hard enough in this world.
Those damn baby
and
boomers.
People who are hanging on to it.
You want the baby
just
boomers.
Go into retirement.
You want the baby boomers to die off. So more millennials.
You don't have to die off. Gigs. Just retire. Just retire. You're the greatest of all time. Everyone's accepted it. Go be the greatest at retirement. How about that?
I see. I want to see him. He's playing at such a high level. I just want to see him keep going. Keep on going. Now, if the Cowboys could freaking win, then I'd be okay. As long as the Cowboys are going to suck, then keep it going, Tom Brady. I mentioned this during the break, and we were talking about the weekend and his performance. And again, it was the first time ever I couldn't wait for the weekend to be over. But it's not my line. I stole that, but I love it. It's a hilarious line. The pregame performance of America the Beautiful, and I'm unfamiliar with her. That was the name of the artist, H-E-R, Her. Had you heard of her before that performance last night, Shannon?
I heard of her when she was the musical guest on SNL when Adele was the host.
My goodness.
However, I never make it. I'm always so tired. I never make it to the first performance, so I didn't actually watch them, but I knew of her. But she was fantastic.
She nailed it.
She didn't even need to sing, just play the guitar. I mean, she's a fantastic singer, don't get me wrong. But wow.
And I think it's an interesting contrast. The Weeknd had all these dancers and all this production and the Hall of Mirrors and coming out of the sky and the quote unquote robot choir. So you had all these production elements, and most of us are going meh on the Weeknd. Not all of us, but some of us. But her, it's a woman with talent wailing on a guitar, doing a song we've all heard before, obviously, America the Beautiful.
Where you can really compare.
I think she nailed it. I want to go back and watch that.
And I would think there's more eyes on America the Beautiful and the national anthem than there are on the halftime performance, just because it is the beginning of the game. It's like how all the best commercials, they try to get that early slot because most eyes are on the TV at that moment. And to do it stripped down by yourself, a song that everyone knows, it was incredible. And I thought the national anthem was really well done too. They did go over. They did go over. As Benny said, they did. Yes.
Yeah, R&B star Jasmine Sullivan, along with country singer Eric Church. What I really liked about that, and I don't know if it was subtle or not so subtle, you had a country singer, Eric Church, and, country music tends to be, a white most of your country fans are white people. Not all, but a lot. And to pair him with an R&B singer, Jasmine Sullivan. So, you had a white guy, you had an African-American woman singing together, coming off of the year 2020, where we had George Floyd and we had all of these protests. And I just thought, I thought it was well done and powerful, and I liked the mix a lot.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what we were going to get, but it sounded wonderful. And then how about the hologram of, I believe it was Mr. Lombardi?
Vince Lombardi. I dug it.
That was a surprise.
Yeah. Now, again, I grew up, I remember seeing Vince Lombardi alive. That's how old I am. Get off my lawn. But so what did you think of it? Being younger and not having grown up, being that aware of Vince Lombardi, at least when you were a kid.
I thought it was really cool.
Nice.
I liked the speech, and the fact that holograms are a thing now, that is pretty awesome.
Now, I do always think this whenever I see Vince Lombardi or the Vince Lombardi trophy. Super Bowl 1 and 2, knocking on the door of both of those Super Bowls, just barely beating the Cowboys, Green Bay. Cowboys could have won the Ice Bowl Cowboys, one of those, it was in Green Bay, the Ice Bowl. Green Bay wins. They go to the Super Bowl. The other one was at the Cotton Bowl. Both of those were one-possession games at the end that Green Bay beat Dallas. So I always think this, and I know I'm a Cowboys homer, it could have been the Tom Landry Trophy. If the Cowboys go to Super Bowl 1 and 2, it's the Tom Landry Trophy. And then last night, that hologram, the dude in the funny hat, the fedora, would have been Tom Landry. I know I'm a Cowboys homer and I'm a big loser, but
Some things just aren't meant to be, Chris.
the Cowboys, not that I'm bitter.
Some things just aren't meant to be.
I-
That would
I-
have been an added curse, I think, for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
We don't need any more of that.
Tom Landry Trophy. It's got a ring to it. I have to give props as well because I think she's a superstar and I think she's the voice of her generation. You had Amanda Gorman doing the poem to introduce the 3 honorary captains. Again, her inauguration poem was jaw-dropping and brilliant and a tour de force. And even though it was pre-recorded, again, just if Amanda Gorman reads the phone book, I'm going to stop and listen. She's just an amazing poet, and I think just a brand new superstar. And I can't wait to see everything she does from here on out.
Yeah, and 22 years old, and I've lost all construct of time, so I can't even remember how many weeks ago the inauguration was. But after that was when she got the Super Bowl gig, and so just in between that time, she had to write that poem, and for it to be, I mean, I'm not a big procrastinator, but when it came to homework, I can do it next week. I can do it. We have a little bit more time, and then it would end up just being whatever it was. But she clearly has a talent unlike any other, and I hope we get to see her at many more events in the future.
Yeah, and again, kudos to the Super Bowl because she winds up being the first Super Bowl poet. I like it.
A lot of firsts for her.
I hope that becomes a tradition, and I hope it's always her. I'm cool with that. I know other poets are going to say, "Hey, what about me?" But
yeah, it'd be really cool if she did one just for the game. I know this year, obviously, with all of the healthcare and all that, like it was the perfect poem to do. But it'd be really cool if she kind of did almost a hype video type one.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to force ourselves a little bit to pull ourselves away from the Super Bowl. We will get back to it because there's so much to talk about. But one of the and we'll get to Drew Pearson in a bit as well. But Longhorns over the weekend, Oklahoma State, they go to double overtime, and Oklahoma State beats Texas 75-67. I saw somebody on Facebook Live say, "What about their what's wrong with the Texas Longhorns?" So, is there something wrong with the Texas Longhorns?
I'll tell you. The thing that's wrong with the Texas Longhorns is that they are the same team we've had throughout Shaka's run. You just thought they were different because they won a couple. They beat Kansas. Congratulations. Well, guess what? A lot of people are beating Kansas this year. It's like when Texas football beat Notre Dame. Texas is back. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Ouch.
They've now lost 3 in a row to ranked teams. Oklahoma State, they were ranked in one poll, not ranked in another. They took 34 threes. They made 5 of those.
Ooh.
They missed 87 points worth of threes.
And you hit one of them all the way up to the second overtime, and you probably win the game. You hit one more of those threes that you missed.
They should have won in regulation. They didn't. They could have won in the first overtime. The second it went to the second overtime, it was over with. Brock Cunningham, he played one of his best games and seemed to be the guy who was going to save them and get them that victory. And for him to almost hand it away when Cade Cunningham grabbed it from his inbounds pass and should have just laid it up to end it right there. What that's coaching right there. That's coaching. You only had one guy available to receive the ball. Of course, Cade knows where he's going to throw it no matter where he pump fakes because the guy, he knows where he is. He's got his body on him. Texas could not penetrate the zone that Oklahoma State was using. So that's part of the reason why we got 34 threes jacked up, because they could not get the ball inside. When you play a zone, you're supposed to work the ball around until you get that open shot. And Texas either just doesn't have the patience or doesn't have the coaching to do so. I don't know. I think they're the same team we've seen year in, year out. It's just we're getting the losses towards the end of the season rather than a mix throughout the season.
Now,
I think Shaka is losing it here.
Okay, now you just said it, and you mentioned Shaka, and I want to go there. You said Texas either doesn't have the patience or doesn't have the coaching to get it done. I mean, here we were, at least I was, a few weeks ago saying, when they were at number 4, saying, is this the year that it all comes together for Shaka Smart? Much has been expected of him, and it looked like it was all coming together, and here you are now, I imagine, and I think you speak for a lot of Longhorn fans, questioning the coaching. If Texas now flounders after such a great start, being in the top 5, and now I look at their record, they're 11-5 overall, 5-4 in the Big 12. That's not very impressive Big 12 wise. Granted, the Big 12 is probably the best conference in men's college basketball this year, but if they flounder, if they suck in the conference tournament, and if they're one and done in the NCAA tournament, is Shaka Smart right back on the hot seat?
I think he's on the hot seat today. And absolutely, if he's one and done in the tournament. Yeah, this is like Tom Herman, right? And the reason why he's no longer at Texas. It's great when you win the games you're not supposed to. It's fantastic. It's what pushes you to that next level. But you have to win the games you're supposed to win. If you can't do that, you're not getting anywhere. And Shaka isn't doing that.
That's a very interesting comparison to Tom Herman, because
couldn't beat OU.
Yeah. He goes to a bowl
home
game.
This year.
He goes to a bowl game, but it's not the bowl game you wanted. It was the Alamo Bowl, and they won big, and they scored more points in that bowl game than Texas has ever scored in a bowl game. And a lot of us thought, all right, we've discovered Bijan Robinson. We've discovered a quarterback for the future. The future looks bright for Tom Herman. And, within a few days after that bowl win, he's gone. It's interesting that you say that you compare him, Shaka Smart, to Tom Herman. And I think it certainly raises the stakes for not only the conference championship game, but certainly what is much bigger than that is the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and Shaka's been around so long at this point. It shouldn't be like this anymore. It shouldn't be a coaching issue. And talk COVID all you want, but every team's gone through COVID. They're not the only ones. And they've had plenty of time since that 19 days off when they've been back together to fix any wrongs that they've had. The Kansas game that was earlier postponed has been rescheduled for the end of February. It'll be interesting to see if they can beat them once again. But I don't think they will.
Wow.
I think it's over for Shaka this year. I'm not saying the team isn't gonna find some wins here down the stretch. I'd love for them to make a run in the tournament. But at the end of the day, we still have the exact same Texas team we've been seeing year after year.
Man, I hope you're wrong as far as the tournament. Hopefully, in a lot of these games, like Oklahoma State, it was winnable, double overtime. They're certainly in it. Hit one more of those 3-point shots that you mentioned, and maybe they win this game. But I think it's a great comparison to Tom Herman, and a lot's going to be on the line for Shaka Smart personally, and for this Longhorn team once the tournament comes. And here we are, moving a day deeper into February 8th, man. March and March Madness is going to be here before we know it. Tell you what we're going to do. It is 7:20. We do this at 6:20 and at 7:20 and throughout the day on AM 1300 The Zone and on Ticket 760, 12 times throughout the day. We do it at 20 after the hour, a chance for you to win some big money. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest, and it goes like this.
Let us give you money. Your chance to win $1,000 is right now. Text the nationwide keyword HOPE to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. Once again, that's HOPE to 200-200. Good luck.
Good luck, Hope. Keep hope alive, Longhorns. Got a tweet from Luis Alvarez, says, after hearing all of the halftime reviews, this is the first time I'm glad I slept through the weekend. Tough.
Funny.
I mean, what do you think back to the weekend for a moment? What do you think the general consensus is? I mean, can a Super Bowl performance hurt you as a performer if enough people think it was lackluster? I wonder.
No, because you're still being talked about.
Yeah.
People are still going to your profile and giving you those clicks and giving you all the things that you wanted to begin with. It's good or bad. It's not the Janet Jackson thing.
Yeah.
That was bad.
True.
But the
Your boy
weekend
Justin
can only go.
Timberlake, by the way.
Yeah, right. Believe me,
Yeah.
he trends every day on the Super Bowl with that.
To this day.
To this day. I mean, it's the reason YouTube was created, was because of that performance. So people could go back and watch it for whatever reason. But no, I think the weekend fared just fine. And again, I think everybody is going to have something to say, and it's never going to be their favorite performance unless favorite artist performing.
True. Very, very true. Something we haven't talked about, which was a story over the weekend as we were headed into the Super Bowl, is just the awful story about Andy Reid's son, Britt, who was the linebackers coach, is the linebackers coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. Late in the week, I think it was Thursday night in Kansas City, he's driving, and at an off ramp, there's a disabled car, and there's another car that went to help the disabled car, and the car that Britt Reid is driving hit those two disabled cars, 2 children in the car and a 5-year-old girl in critical condition. We found out on Super Bowl Sunday before the game that she had, brain injuries and life-threatening injuries. Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, said at the top of his post-game press conference, quote, "My heart bleeds for everybody involved in that." And Shannon, just a horrible tragedy that the Chiefs and Andy Reid and his son Britt, and most importantly those kids and the family of those kids had to go through. You hate to see something like this, but certainly that's one of the things that cast a cloud on the Super Bowl for the Chiefs.
Yeah, absolutely. We did it through the week thinking that we were going to get a Super Bowl where there wasn't some almost disastrous story to headline it. And unfortunately, this incident occurred. I saw, I don't know why you would even be out to have yourself in that situation when you're coaching in a Super Bowl that weekend, why you're not at home just playing your Xbox and ordering in and relaxing to lead up to this game. Horrible situation. I feel for those families and hope specifically that little girl that she's able to come back stronger after this incident.
Yeah, Andy Reid's son in the incident reportedly told police officers that he had had 2 or 3 drinks and that he had also taken some prescription Adderall. So I haven't heard of any blood test or anything that's come back yet. But and again, for Andy Reid, he had another son many years ago that committed suicide. So there's been, Andy Reid has dealt with a lot of tragedy as a parent and in his life. And, obviously our prayers go out to, the little girl who's in critical condition and everybody involved, but just a sad story.
Yeah, not what you want leading up to the Super Bowl. Not what you want any day. That's never good news for anyone to wake up, and for him to be the son of the head coach of a guy who's coaching in his second Super Bowl. Something that the entire organization has to deal with now as well.
And then we find out overnight, just one more sad story, but we should mention it because it's kind of a big sports story. ESPN baseball reporter Pedro Gomez, who was beloved by a lot of people, and he was an ESPN reporter since 2003, died what is being called unexpectedly and suddenly at the age of 58. And, while we don't have a cause of death, sometimes, and obviously this is speculation, who knows for sure, sometimes suddenly and unexpectedly can mean a heart attack. We don't know yet. But again, and I went and looked, at his Twitter page, Shannon, and here's a guy just tweeted a couple of days ago, and his life is normal. When Tommy Lasorda passed away a few days ago, he tweeted out a cool photo and a story about Tommy Lasorda. And, sometimes life is so fragile and life is so fleeting and you don't know from one day to the next if you're going to be here or if someone you love might be here one day and gone the next. So just sad to hear of the sudden, unexpected passing of ESPN reporter Pedro Gomez at age 58.
Absolutely. So just be kind to people because you never know.
This is true.
You don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah. There's that old adage, be kind to everybody because you don't know, the battle that they are going through in their lives. And it's often something unspoken and something you can't even fathom. So I amen to that, Shannon. Absolutely. Coming up, Shannon with a new segment that we will debut, which should be a lot of fun. So we'll do that coming up. Also coming up, Tanner Carlson at 8:06. His thoughts on the Super Bowl. Is he grooving to the weekend? Andy Everett in the 8 o'clock hour as well. 8:35, his Super Bowl thoughts and more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Fouts, soothsayer, swashbuckler, archaeologist, and the newest member of the Irish Mafia. He's your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. Till 9, you're listening to the Chris Duel Show. John Williams, I got your Doritos meme. Yeah, Jorge, I agree with you on old rock and roll bands. Axel asks if Texas wax Shaka, who are you going to get that's better? And Shannon says Chris Beard. Musa says the anthem sucked. I liked it. Axel J. Miller says, shout out to Bruce Arians with the first all African American assistant coaching staff. Hashtag Black History. Yes, very cool. Hopefully those guys get head coaching opportunities sooner than later. Armando, I did not try FanDuel over the weekend. I meant to, and I didn't get to it. So that's my bad. So, Shannon, any special way you want to get into this, or any special way you want me to throw it to you?
Yeah, you can just throw it, and then I'll set it up since it's our first time doing it, and we'll see how it
Okay.
goes. I'm gonna basically just go through 3 quick stories that are headlines, but not necessarily headlines that we need to spend, entire segments on it, and then give my take and let you give your take on them.
Okay.
Did you want me to send them to you in the private so you know what's coming?
Let's do it this way. I'll do it cold this time, and
All right.
after this, we can see if that makes sense.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Villarreal. Appreciate it.
Rodney Smith says Brady had it won mentally before he ever took the field.
We'll get into that in the salty shake.
Oh, I have to send the link to Tanner. Let's see, copy link address. Whoops, that ain't right. Here we go. Little Eagles for you, submitted for your approval by Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. Welcome into the Chris Duel Show. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Monday morning, February 8th, the day after the Super Bowl. In just a few moments, Shannon will debut a new segment. Nothing like new segments on the show. A little bit later in the show, Tanner Carlson at 8:06. Football freak, Longhorn freak. Is he as down on Shaka Smart as Shannon is? And Shannon, somebody asked you and you had an immediate answer. I think it was Axel J. Miller asking you on Facebook Live. And if you're new to the show, we stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook pages. There's also a YouTube link. We also give you links through Twitter to jump on the video. So somebody asked you, if they blow out Shaka Smart, who are the Longhorns going to get as a head basketball coach? And you've already got a candidate ready to go.
Yeah, the one and only Chris Beard, currently the head coach of Texas Tech. And Tech loves him. I mean, obviously, he took him to the title game. Didn't fare so well, and the team not as great as they were last year. But I mean, they still beat Texas, right?
Yeah.
And Chris Beard, a University of Texas graduate, so we'd love to bring him home. And as we know, after what we saw with Tom Herman, UT is not afraid to shell out some money. I mean, it's again, the Tom Herman comparison is there, right? They're opening the new south end of DKR. They're going to have a brand new coach leading the way. Moody Center is going to be opening soon. Why not have a brand new coach lead the way there too? They've already got one on the women's side.
Yeah, you know, I'm a big fan of Chris Beard. I've interviewed him on the show, but man, I still want Shaka Smart to succeed. And you know, I agree with you. I mean, you say he's on the hot seat right now, and certainly come tournament time, he probably will be as well. The other thing that strikes me on this Monday after the Super Bowl, Shannon, is how long we now have to wait for football. It's like, you know, I know we got the draft coming and draft speculation. And obviously with Dak Prescott, we had some Dak Prescott news over the weekend that he had a second surgery. It was kind of like a routine thing just to further strengthen, you know, the ankle injury. But, you know, the Cowboys saying that they will do everything they can to sign him to a contract extension by the March 9th deadline. But if they don't, they would franchise tag him. That's not a huge surprise, but, you know, the conventional wisdom has always been you franchise tag a quarterback a second time, and you're probably going to lose him. You can only do it twice. You're probably going to lose him at the end of, you know, that season. What are your concerns, Shannon? Are you concerned that the Cowboys are going to totally botch this and eventually Dak Prescott may just walk?
I'm concerned that this came out and it made news because they didn't necessarily tell us anything we didn't already know. So it was interesting enough that this was even a headline, and then underneath it said, you know, there are no concerns about injury because he is performing really well relative to the injury he suffered last year. I'm hoping they get a deal done because I want Dak to be around for the future. I don't want him to start to feel like Deshaun Watson, where it's one thing if a deal doesn't get done and he leaves, but it's another to have a disgruntled quarterback that you still want on your team but are now having to fight for. So just hoping. I don't want to hear anything from Cowboys camp until a deal is done.
And you got to wonder about Dak Prescott. Like us, Dak, I'm sure, watched the Super Bowl last night, and you're watching Tom Brady leave one team that he didn't feel was giving him the tools and the supporting cast to go back to Super Bowls. You got to wonder if Dak Prescott, I mean, look at the Cowboys. Look at the last 25 years. As much as it's great to be a Cowboy, and it's great to be the Cowboys quarterback, if Dak wants to go to Super Bowls and win Super Bowls, I wonder if Dak has the confidence in Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to enable him to have a supporting cast to do that.
Right. And with all the other moving pieces, we got word over the weekend that the Eagles are, in fact, willing to trade Carson Wentz. They're even expecting it to happen sometime this week, which just leads, how awful would it be if Dak, I won't even say it. You know what I'm thinking. I won't even say it.
Well, and I also heard that the Eagles have a lot of suitors. for
Right.
Carson Wentz. I don't understand
Who
that.
wants to take that on?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I saw that the Broncos were even one of them, and how funny is that if he walks in and Nick Foles is just smiling and waving at him in the corner at his locker, because we all know that, on the year it was going to be Carson's MVP run, he gets injured, and then Nick Foles gets all the praise for that Eagles Super Bowl, and rightfully so. But Cowboys, just get it done. Just get it done, and we can move on to the other areas that need fixing, because there are a lot.
This is true.
Defense.
Mm-hmm. All right, Shannon, day after the Super Bowl, and we're going to make some show history, a brand new segment. So I will throw it to you, and let's do this thing.
All right, let's do it. Salty Shakedown. So I'm going to hit you guys with 3 trending topics. We'll mix it up every day. We'll do some local stuff, some entertaining stuff, and obviously some sports stuff. We've got all sports today for the first one here. I'll give my take, and we'll get Chris's take, and then we'll run down the line. So let's start off in the NBA before we come back to football. Mr. Kevin Durant on Friday was taken out of the game midway due to a positive test in the Nets organization with one of their employees. The employee had tested positive. He was in the car with Kevin Durant maskless on 3 occasions on that Friday and beforehand, leading to Kevin Durant's getting pulled from the game. This is the second time this season he's had to sit for a week due to the NBA's protocols. They don't differentiate between those who have the antibodies and those who don't. If we recall, Kevin Durant, one of the first major athletes to get the virus back when this all first started going down, and then he has to sit again. Kevin Durant just came off a year of sitting. How annoyed do you think this guy is? If I'm Kevin Durant, I'm saying we got to change the rules. I've had COVID. This is my second go around. A week? You make me sit a week? I can't play till next Friday? I want to get on the floor. We finally have this team going. We need our big 3 on the floor. I am the biggest of the 3. Let me get in here. Let's find a way around this. I can't believe I'm having to sit for a second time this season due to contact tracing. Chris, what say you?
So it was the employee in the car with KD, and that employee was maskless. That's the problem
They
here?
were both maskless.
Oh, see, and again, culture and the whole team needs to just say, we need to play by the rules here. It's time for people to wear masks. I mean, do you wear masks in your building when you walk by somebody else? I know you only have like 3 people in the building, but it's like when you see me here on Facebook Live, if I leave this studio, I put my mask on. I can't believe that at that level, with millions of dollars at stake in the NBA, employees are hanging out in a car maskless.
I do not wear a mask when I'm at work because we have a giant place and I'm never near anybody. Most days I don't actually see anybody, and I'm in my little hole here, and I feel very safe.
Well, if you're not seeing anybody, and if you're not in the car next to somebody, then you are okay.
Swapping manly stories.
Yes.
All right, let's move back to Mr. Tom Brady, because we just can't get enough of him today. Someone alluded it on our live video feed that Tom Brady had this game won mentally, and I don't think it was just Tom Brady. I think it was the entire Bucs team, because Leonard Fournette revealed after the game that the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, Tom Brady texted every team member at 11 p.m. on the dot, 3 words: "We will win." And what happens last night? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the game. Not only did they come to perform on the field, they had it mentally. They knew, had it instilled in their mind from Mr. Brady himself, that they were going to win this game. They probably didn't think it until maybe about 8 minutes left in the fourth that it was, in fact, theirs in the bag. But they truly had this game from the jump. Tom Brady doing Tom Brady things, handles business off the field just as well as he does on, by keeping his team motivated and in the game mentally. Chris Duel, would you love a late night text from Tom Brady?
Yes, I would. And I think that's a life lesson for all of us. We will win. Texting his teammates, speaking it into existence, or in this case, texting it into existence. You've got to believe it. You've got to see it. You've got to reinforce it. And what a leader of this team to text that to everybody. I love it. I know Brady's not your boy, but the more I learn about the guy, the more I love him. I love Brady.
Yeah, we know you're a big fan of late night texting, Chris, with your, who was that? Andy, you sent the I love you too?
Yeah, I sent, Brady text, we will win. I sent
that's right.
a text to Andy Everett, I love you. It was meant for my wife, but
That's right.
I do love Andy,
It's
and
all
he'll be
good
on the show in
motivation.
less than an hour. Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, we of course had Patrick Mahomes, and we all know him as well as his family because they are very active on social media. His brother, a TikTok star. People often make fun of how many TikToks he does during a game, asking if he's even watching. And then his mom is an avid tweeter, and last night she tweeted at Gisele Bündchen, Mr. Tom Brady's wife, that, wow, it's really hard to do things when you have the refs on your team, and tagged Gisele in the tweet. After the loss, after the game, Miss Randy Mahomes, also known as the quarterback producer, as she likes to call herself, ran into Tom Brady's parents. They had a chat. They posted a couple pictures together. She said how great they were. But I think Mama needs to stay off Twitter, especially in times like this. She also came after a couple of networks for how they were criticizing her son. I think she just needs to realize the business that he's in. Let him do the talking for himself on and off the field. Whether it's good or bad, you're just going to have to live with it because you birthed the quarterback. You are a quarterback producer, but you are not the quarterback coach. So please just enjoy your son. He's in the NFL. He's making a lot of money. He's having a lot of fun. He didn't get this one, but he will be back. Chris Duel, what do you think about Mama Bear?
First of all, nothing worse than a sore loser. So tweeting, oh, how about the refs? You had the refs on your side. And then tagging Gisele on that was just ridiculous and cheap and stupid. And I watched the telecast last night. I have not heard anything but praise for Patrick Mahomes.
Well, she noted other networks, not specifically CBS, who had the game.
Okay, well, I have not, and you and I pay a lot of attention to media. There's nothing but praise and love for Patrick Mahomes. So I have not heard a word of criticism since he became a Kansas City Chief. He's had a phenomenal career. He's a transcendent player. I mean, anybody who doesn't call him the greatest player currently in the NFL is out of their mind. And I've not heard anybody criticize him. So she's consuming media somewhere other than where we consume media.
Yeah, She's very outspoken, probably one of the more outspoken she's maybe like LeVar Ball to the NFL. And I don't want that to be like I'm coming across as like going after her, but I think there's a bit of a line that she crosses every now and again. You don't want to be the headline in this situation. You want your son to be that headline, and you don't want it to be, well, Patrick Mahomes' mom said da 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 da. And this morning it is after that poor performance.
Well, and now you've got his mom doing this. Last week, people were like circulating videos of his girlfriend being obnoxious.
Right.
And I guess his little brother. And so I guess these are family. I guess it kind of runs in the family.
Yeah. And to be fair, like we mentioned earlier, this was Patrick's worst loss he's suffered since 2016. And certainly in the NFL, he's really only known success. So they are getting this as well for the first time, as suffering a big loss and suffering it on a huge stage where everyone is watching, where everyone's going to have an opinion, and they should know going in that that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there we have it, the first official salty shakedown.
That was quite the outstanding salty shakedown.
Oh, thank you so much.
I feel all shook up and shaken down. And we need to shake down Patrick Mahomes' mom. That's just so embarrassing. And I think
come on, Mom.
Well, and it's so embarrassing for him because he's such a likable guy.
Mm-hmm.
He seems like such a good guy. And that's why when I saw the video of it, like his girlfriend, I'm thinking, really? Yeah. And again, I love the story that they were high school sweethearts. And I love that they're still together, and they were together since high school, and it would have been so easy, at Texas Tech, or when he makes his millions of dollars, or when he becomes the greatest quarterback ever. We see Jimmy Garoppolo, who apparently likes to hang out with porn stars, which is a little bit ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I credit Patrick Mahomes for being true to his girl dating back to high school, but why be obnoxious? Just ugh.
James Allen talked about it on Friday, where he says he looks at everything as risk reward. And I think this is a great example. You post those videos, you tweet those things. If you end up winning, okay, maybe people don't see them as much and don't bash you as much for them. But when you lose, they almost always certainly do. And they over-escalate and they throw them in your face time and time again. Why do it at all?
I agree.
Why do it at all? Social media lives on forever, too. Even if you delete it, someone's already captured it on a photo, posted it somewhere else, especially when you're at this level. Just let Patrick do his job. I know that's great. They're close knit family. It's incredible. It's amazing. But calm down.
Yeah. And obviously, his mom, most moms will come to bat for you if they think their child has been wronged. I still would love to see and hear where he got criticism. I mean, what is there to, even last night, what is there to criticize Patrick Mahomes for? I mean, it was shocking that they lost and shocking that they didn't score, and he was running for his life back there. But, if anything, that's a tribute to the game plan and the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We still know, even though the big story is Tom Brady winning his 7th, we still know the current best quarterback in the National Football League, and maybe for quite some time, is Patrick Mahomes. I would be very curious to find out where mommy Mahomes heard criticism of her precious son.
It looks like, at least on Twitter, that she was upset with the 4-letter network posting a still image of his face, kind of in disbelief, and it's got the score on the bottom, 31-9. Tampa Bay, of course, leading the way in that. And, I mean, they do that when you're winning too. People love when Tom scores a touchdown to post that picture of him trying to high five a referee. It's either way. It's where you are. And remember was it this season when she got all upset at a sportscaster for referring to him as Pat Mahomes? I named him Patrick. Call him Patrick. He's in sports. Nicknames are a thing. Yeah. Some people's nicknames are just shortened versions of their name.
Well, and we saw the video of Brady's parents before the game, and they said, we call him Tommy. He's always been Tommy to us. It's like, not everybody's going to call your kid
You're going to call him what you
kid.
Call him, but your kid is now, I don't want to say he's like property of, fans of the NFL, but he is in the spotlight. People feel like they know him, and so they are going to call him like they are, the first name basis. We're on nickname basis. We are Pat Mahomes. We are part of the gang, and he is Pat Mahomes. So we'll see how we'll see how quiet she is during the offseason and where she is when the season comes back. Because, of course, he's having that baby. He'll be all right. I think the second his little girl is born, he will forget all about the Super Bowl. And he is going to have surgery on his turf toe. For those that didn't hear that during the broadcast last night, he is expected to have surgery for that turf toe. If I'm his fiance, I'm pissed because, she's going to be dealing with baby and he's going to be, I don't know,
he's going to be rehabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he can still make it around the house and do what he has to do.
I don't know, $500 million. They may be able to afford.
Yeah.
Some extra assistance.
They can get some help. All right, coming up, we shall talk a little more Super Bowl, a little more halftime, a little more commercials, and we'll probably get more into some Horns basketball and some of this very negative, salty Shaka talk as well. We're going to be joined by Tanner Carlson from 1200 WOAI in San Antonio. Talk all things Super Bowl, football, Longhorns, and more with Tanner. And then the man I send late night texts that I love him to, Andy Everett, coming up at 8:35. Your soundscape stylist is the lovely and talented Jeremy Fouts, the only person I am aware of who picked a Buccaneers blowout win over the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. We'll see if he has any other prognostications for the week. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I am Chris. We are with you till 9. You can jump in on the phone lines at 800-707-9760. Thanks for hanging out. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show. That was not me fighting in the Toyota Center. Eric, I'm going to fire up my coffee. I will be back again in a few moments. I'm wearing a mask. Kevin Durant.
But Favre retired before he went to the Vikings. If memory serves me correct. That's in reference to Eric's comment. Romo in the booth is great, but I could have done without him continually saying, they still have a chance. Carl, are you celebrating your Bucks win today? Edited for radio. I'm working on an intro for this segment. But thank you guys. I thought it was fun. Eric says, moms support their kids on death row. There is no bond like mom and son. So when your kid is one of the best QBs in the NFL, mama gonna have something to say. Okay, who else is mama saying something though? Clint, have you tried telling your coworkers to talk to the hand? Didn't Favre retire twice though? He retired as a Packer and then went to the Vikings and then to the Jets and then re-retired. I don't know. You have to sit that music. So it's a window behind me into another studio. And that screen that you see is the log. So I promise I don't have anything up that's damaging anyway. But it's just the log of the show. Armando, what was your favorite commercial? I like the Paramount Plus and the M&Ms. Yeah, there weren't as many, I think, great commercials. There were some good ones. Also, that other screen is just my view of the live stream. So again, nothing incriminating.
There he is. What's up? We might get into also Longhorn basketball, the loss to Oklahoma State. Shannon is none too pleased with Shaka.
It was not a great game.
Anything on your mind that you want to get into?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Then we'll just do all things Super Bowl.
Yeah, nothing real pressing.
Okay. Cowboys and Dak.
Yeah. Yeah, we can always jump into contract talk, even though it's the most exhausting.
Yeah, and seemingly never ending. Yeah. Armando, I thought they were good Hall of Fame choices. Obviously, our favorite was Drew Pearson, but hard to argue.
Oh man, dude, y'all do anything? Y'all stay at the house for the Super Bowl and just kind of hung out?
Yeah, it's and even if there weren't a pandemic, I don't go to Super Bowl parties
Yeah.
ever.
Not really parties. It's become a small tradition for JC and I. We just go to Buffalo Wild Wings for, if the game is good enough, we'll stay there.
Yeah.
But
So did you for this?
Yeah, we went and kind of hung out there and got some wings. She's like big wing fanatic.
Okay.
And so she hasn't been able to eat anything wing related or fried related since she's been pregnant.
Wow.
And so this was like our first like big test. I was like, all right. And so she could really only go with the mild original sauce. No, she tried lemon pepper and she had to go to the bathroom. She was like, no, it's not working out. So, so we just stuck with those. And then after halftime, we left and went home and I watched a little bit of. I didn't even finish the game. Once it was over, it was over. And I just went to bed. But
so, what was the scene at Buffalo Wild Wings? A lot of people?
Not really. It was kind of busy in and out. It was mostly the to-go orders. Mostly people doing takeout and stuff. Inside the restaurant, it wasn't real busy.
Okay. Yeah, Eric, I was really happy for Leonard Fournette. Left for dead by Jacksonville and resurrecting his career and winning a Super Bowl was pretty cool for him.
He played well too.
Yeah.
from his 30-plus years experience of guiding fishing trips. The great outdoors and Sunday sportsman with Ken Mila. Weekend mornings from 6 to 8 a.m. on Sports Talk Leader, AM 1300 The Zone. The day after the Super Bowl, we react. We get ready for a new football season, which is so far away. It's kind of, thank God for the NBA and the Spurs. Thank God the Longhorns are still relevant in men's college basketball, although it was a tough weekend, because this is the week it's finally going to set in that football season is over. Welcome into the Chris Duel Show. I'm Chris Duel, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, your soundscape stylist, Jeremy Fout, and in studio, you know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him. You can see him right now on Facebook Live, the hardest working man in News Talk Radio. Right. Tanner Carlson, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, it is always kind of a depressing Monday after the Super Bowl. I mean, it's fun to get the reaction
this whole year, but it was like even now I'm still like, man, I'd still watch them. I'd still watch a Sunday with the Cowboys playing,
Yes.
even if it was terrible football. Bad football is still better than no football.
I agree with that. I'm seeing, by the way, on Facebook Live, your microphone is off, Tanner. So somebody was, I don't know if you can do that on your end. There, you just did it.
Is that good?
Yeah, somebody
Cool.
was saying that they could not hear you. So
Okay.
now we can hear you on Facebook Live, but we can hear you on the radio. So your thoughts, Tom Brady? Shannon has gone on the record, said, I will never pull for Tom Brady.
Right.
Were you just in hell last night seeing Brady win number 7?
No, here's the thing. You can dislike somebody and their career and their success, but you can also respect how great they are. And I've never, ever said that Tom Brady wasn't the greatest quarterback. I've never, ever said he wasn't the greatest athlete to ever play sports. I just don't root for him. I don't hope that he wins continually year after year. So, no, it just is one of those things where I just had wished it was a more competitive game. It was over by halftime. And, so it was just kind of one of those things where I don't like when the game itself is the worst part of the Super Bowl. I don't like the halftime show being better than the game or the commercials being more entertaining than the game. So that to me is the only downer of last night. It wasn't anything to do with Brady or whatever. It was just more so how poorly the Chiefs played offensively. And I can't really – I'm not an excuse of, I don't blame the refs. I'm not a ref blamer. But there were points in that first half where they made some really, really bad calls against the Chiefs that just were really kind of ticky-tack touch fouls that you're like, really? You're going to call that? Really? You're going to call that in a Super Bowl? And I don't even know if I would have called it in a regular season game. I still would have been upset or annoyed had it been in a regular season Week 6 game that didn't have any meaning to it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It was just kind of one of those things where it kind of just put the game in a funk after those bad calls were made, after, Brady throws the interception, but it's a really ticky-tack holding penalty, and then back-to-back pass interference call, all in one drive. It just was a complete downfall of the Chiefs defense.
Shannon, Tanner says the game was over at halftime because it was Mahomes. I kept saying out loud, no lead is safe against Patrick Mahomes. Even at 22 points early in the fourth quarter, I thought, and there was a drive where Mahomes took him down the field very, very quickly. I never had that feeling until maybe midway fourth quarter that the game was out of hand.
My only thing was I had the feeling when the Texans and Chiefs played last year in the playoffs and they were down 28-0 in the first quarter, I had the feeling of, guys, it's Patrick Mahomes. This game ain't over. He's going to do – they're going to play – they're going to put something together. I had none of that feeling I had for last night's game. After the Buccaneers, I think it was before the Fournette run, the touchdown run. I think it was Gronk's second touchdown. I said, yeah, this game's wrapped up. It's taken care of. I didn't see anything out of the Chiefs. They were dropping wide open passes. They couldn't block any. I could have gotten a sack on Mahomes last night.
The Cowboys could have gotten a sack on Mahomes last night.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Cowboys could have gotten pressure on Mahomes last night. So it's just one of those things where I had no confidence for the first time ever watching the Kansas City Chiefs offense that they were going to get something going.
Shannon, do you think, I heard somebody say in postgame last night that the Bucs have developed a blueprint for beating the Kansas City Chiefs? Do you think that this is a blueprint? Do you think this might be the beginning of more, Mahomes was something like 25-1 coming into this game. Do you think this is kind of the beginning of more losses ahead for the Chiefs?
I mean, it's a bit of a blueprint, but you have to have the personnel to do it, right? I mean, that defense was coming after him strong time and time again. As we mentioned, they were down two offensive linemen, and the guys they had in just weren't holding their own the way that Mahomes is used to getting so much more time and not having to twirl around or go backwards as much as he did. I mean, he was doing everything he possibly could to buy time for those receivers to get open. And then Tampa Bay just also had the answers in the secondary in covering those key players and matchups like Travis Kelce, like Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek only had 3 catches, I think, going into the fourth quarter last night, and then he finally gets his 5th, and it's called back because yet another penalty on Kansas City. So the Bucs definitely drew up the perfect game plan, but I think their personnel was key in making it come to fruition.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the thing to me is like, sure, you can come up with a scheme to do it, but the Jets could have that exact same scheme, and they're still going to allow 40 points to the Chiefs' offense. So you have to have the right guys out there, and I think last night's game really showed the importance of not only getting key pieces, but making sure that you've got offensive tackle depth and you've got offensive line depth, and how important the offense and defensive lines truly are in this game. You can't just have a great quarterback and great weapons around them. You've got to have that offensive line set. But on the other side of things, I mean, how many of those Tampa Bay Buccaneer players were on that team last year? None that contributed to the game at all, except for some guys on defense, but Antonio Brown not on the team last year. Gronk not on the team last year. Fournette not on the team last year. Brady not on the team last year. So these guys, you can get and build a team, a championship winning team, which is what we've seen with the Rams that have completely discarded the draft. You don't have to build through the draft. You can build through the free agent, but you're only going to have that team for 1 or 2 years. You're going to get small contracts out of these guys that are fairly big names. And Ndamukong Suh, JPP, those are free agent guys that this team didn't draft, that they're building their team another way, which everybody, and me included, I love the draft. I love getting college players and grooming them to be your star players. But we've seen it with the Rams recently. They've made a Super Bowl, and we've seen it now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where you don't have to build through the draft. You can build through free agency and still have that success.
All the more reason why we should be angry as Cowboys fans. I mean, here you're talking about the Rams having gone to a Super Bowl not long ago.
Right.
We're talking about the Buccaneers doing it, and we continue to see the Dallas Cowboys mismanage things. And the current thing, and there was Dak news over the weekend, and the news was, he had a second surgery, which was kind of routine and just to kind of strengthen the ankle. He's fine. He's going to be fine. Cowboys are reporting he's in the weight room every day. He's Dak. But we also hear, and it's not a big surprise, but if the Cowboys don't get the deal done by the 9th of March, which I believe is the deadline, then they're going to franchise tag him again. And I brought this up to Shannon earlier, Tanner. I wonder if Dak, watching this Super Bowl, watching Tom Brady leave a team that he was committed to, and his identity was, I'm Tom Brady, New England Patriot. However, he was not happy with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick and the pieces around him that team was putting there. I'm wondering if Dak Prescott, finally, if they franchise tag him again, if he doesn't say, hey, I'm going to go do what Brady did. I'm going to survey the landscape, and I'm going to pick a team where I think I can win the Super Bowl, because it sure as hell ain't happening in Dallas, and hasn't in the last 25 years.
And remember, the franchise tag for the March 9th deadline is more so an extension to get a deal. You can still get a deal done after March 9th. It's that second deadline of free agency when that's cut off.
Okay.
That's whenever you can no longer do contract negotiations, whenever it's so they might. Don't be surprised if they say, all right, he's going to sign the franchise tag. That just kind of is a deadline extension, if you will, into the offseason to where you can still get a deal done. But then there's that second cutoff date where once that's passed, he's on the franchise tag. And it would not be wise financially for the Cowboys to franchise him because it would cost them more money. He would be the highest paid player in the last 2 years on the franchise tag in the NFL. Higher paid than Aaron Donald, Patrick Mahomes, you name the player. In those 2 seasons under the franchise tag, Dak Prescott with guaranteed money would be the highest paid player in the NFL. So all the people who are saying, well, just franchise him. He got hurt. We don't know what he is yet. He's not worth that contract. Well, he's not worth another franchise tag if you really want to talk money. If you're talking dollars and cents, he's worth a long-term contract to where you can kind of put all that money on the back end of his contract and save yourself a little money with a long-term contract. That's more beneficial to the Cowboys to get that done than it is just to give them another franchise and then really ruin your salary cap to where, like we mentioned before, bringing it full circle, it's going to affect your free agency. You're not going to be able to sign anybody. You're not going to be able to get a Richard Sherman on a discounted price. You're not going to be able to get these guys that can maybe build your team with a young core of draftees that you've got with CeeDee Lamb and Trevon Diggs and Gallimore recently. You're not going to be able to mix and match that. You're just going to be left with a franchise tag Dak Prescott and no money to spend anywhere else.
Shannon, we look at the Dallas Cowboys. Here we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night, a team that did not go to the playoffs a year ago, making the moves and acquiring the personnel that could not only get them to the promised land, but they win it. And they win it with Bruce Arians, a coach that's been around a lot, and finally wins his Super Bowl. As we know, the Cowboys have Mike McCarthy, who's been to the promised land, who, like Bruce Arians, is not one of these young Sean McVay coaches. How confident, Shannon, are you that the Cowboys can make the right moves in this offseason and be relevant and be in competition for a Super Bowl next year?
Well, given the history and given where we are right now, I'm not very confident. I mean, we talk about Earl Thomas. Obviously, right now, he's a little bit more, he's seen more as a high-risk guy just because of what he's done off the field. But when he was in free agency last go-around, he openly admitted he wanted to be a Cowboy. That is a position the Cowboys have been needing to fill with a presence of a leader, a guy who knows what he's doing, a veteran, a Pro Bowler. He has all the attributes, and yet they let him fall away to the Ravens, and now he's back there again. Richard Sherman also available on the market this year, and we haven't heard word of them going after either of them, when, again, that position, still a position that needs to be filled with a guy who can bring that group together in the back end. McCarthy last year proved nothing as far as that he obviously lied. He didn't watch everything because he seems like he just picked up wherever he left off. It was almost like he was just seeing what he had and dealt with it. So hopefully there are some moves made in this offseason, but I sure haven't heard of anything yet as far as where the Cowboys might be leaning. I think, like I said earlier, I think the first things first, you have to nail down Dak before you can focus on the trillions of things that the Cowboys need to focus on to be in a position like the Bucs were in this year.
And let's not forget that the Cowboys, as often and with the Jason Garrett era, as much as fans were like, we never go to free agency. We never get these guys. We never get these one-year guys. Well, this year we did, and they ended up not even making it through the entire season because we misevaluated them. So it's one thing to go and sign free agents just to sign free agents, but it's another thing to say, how does this guy fit in with our team? Is he going to play a role? Is he going to be a cancer in the locker room? This, that, all these other aspects, instead of, oh, he played pretty good at the Vikings last year. Let's go ahead and sign Everson Griffin, and then he can completely destroy our team from the inside out.
Right. Well, it's like Antonio Brown with the Bucs. Gave the contract they gave him was a performance-based, completely performance-based, based on how many catches he got, how the percentage of game minutes he got, and all that was based on his performance off the field. So it allowed him to get in line with that team, and he was rewarded for it, as annoying as it is to people who don't care for him that much and for all the crap he has done. But he did earn that money, and that, if you want to follow a plan, do that with guys who you think might be a risk to your team, but could have a great reward.
But and that's my whole point is like, as Cowboy fans, we've been begging for some free agency. Like we've been begging for some activity during the offseason. Well, we finally got that. Unfortunately, the Gerald McCoy thing was ended before it started, and that's not the team or the player's fault. It was just unfortunate events. But other than that, there were guys that just did not work out with this team. The corner, I can't even remember the corner's name. He didn't even make it. We were cutting guys right before the deadline, and
Clinton Dix.
Clinton Dix.
Yeah.
That's another one. I wasn't even thinking about him.
Okay.
But that's another one. He didn't even make it past.
Yeah.
He didn't even make it past training camp. So it's one thing to sign these guys that have big names, but you have to evaluate them, and you have to do your due diligence. If you have to do your homework on not just the player, but the guy off the field as well in the locker room. And I think that was the biggest issue with the guys that the Dallas Cowboys signed in the offseason compared to the guys on the Buccaneers now. And yes, people are going to say, well, what about Antonio Brown? But like Shannon just mentioned, his was 100% incentive based. I mean, he could have made a couple bucks this year if he didn't even do anything on the field for him. So
Got to ask you one more NFL question. It was a big story over the weekend. Reports that the Philadelphia Eagles are close to trading Carson Wentz. And what I'm shocked at is we're hearing reports that a number of teams have shown interest in Carson Wentz. If I'm a general manager, seeing what I've seen lately from Carson Wentz, in addition to his play on the field, apparently a fragile ego in the locker room, who the hell would want Carson Wentz at that price tag on their football team?
I'm curious if his whole self-esteem issue didn't come after the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. I'm curious if that's where it truly started, because we never saw the same Carson Wentz after that injury, after Nick Foles carried that team to a Super Bowl. And then there were guys in the locker room that were team Nick Foles. They were like, hey, let's go with this guy. And I think that after that, his ego was fractured, and it just started to crack and crack and crack, and then crumbled as we saw this last season. So I don't know if a new start would be beneficial to the player, but I'm with you. I don't know if I'm the Colts who are a quarterback away from being a contender in this league, or maybe a Chicago who, I mean, is Trubisky and Wentz that much of a different of a player in terms of turnovers and whatnot? Now, Wentz probably has more talent, arm talent, but in terms of decision-making, they're the same quarterback.
What about Foles? He's already there.
And Foles, who's already there.
Which is crazy.
So you might be able to swap Foles and Wentz in a trade back to Philly. Who knows? I mean, that'd be what Foles' third stint with Philly, and who knows?
But he loves it.
He loves it, and he always plays well there.
You got the statue.
So
the statue's already there.
you've already got the statue, so why not? But I don't know. I would say it would go down to the Colts or the Bears, and that's probably one of the only two teams that maybe Deshaun Watson. You're going to throw him over to Houston and throw in some draft picks along with Wentz to get Watson? I sure hope not.
Yeah.
But, it's always a possibility.
Finally, Tanner, we talked earlier with Shannon about the Longhorns. They lose again, men's college basketball over the weekend at Oklahoma State. Double overtime, 75-67. Shannon says Shaka Smart is on the hot seat right now. It was looking so good earlier in the season, and they were in the top 5, and they're still number 6 last weekend going into this one. But she made a very interesting comparison, saying it's very much like the Tom Herman situation, whereas Longhorns won more than they lost last year. They did go to a bowl game. It was the Alamo Bowl. They did win that Alamo Bowl, scoring like 55 points, more than any other Longhorn team ever. But right after the season, they blow him out. They go in another direction. How much trouble is Shaka Smart in, and how critical will this run be in the NCAA tournament for him to have to go deep to keep his job?
That's what it is. He's going to have to win multiple games in the tournament in March. If at this point, if they make the tournament, they're not. I don't think they're guaranteed to make the tournament at this point. If you lose out, I mean, you still have West Virginia, you still have Iowa State, you still have Kansas, you still have Oklahoma again. And if you're going to make up that Baylor game, you still have Baylor to play. So those are ranked teams that you're not, I mean, probably at this point not going to be favored to win. So who knows if they even make the tournament. And if they do, it's going to be an 8 or 9 seed, depending on how this stretch of basketball goes for the remainder of the season. But I'm with Shannon. If he doesn't at least get to the Sweet 16 or even past the Sweet 16, he's going to have to make a magical Cinderella run in the tournament. But if it's a 1 and out, if you're first round out or even second round out, I think you're gone. I think it's all going to depend on how you go through tournament play, postseason tournament play for the Longhorns. And it's not 100% on Shaka. Greg Brown has not played well. He's played the worst basketball all season of any player on the team the last 3 games. I mean, he's been terrible. He's been scoring for other teams. He's only rebounding. His shooting has been god-awful. Matt Coleman against this last weekend had more turnovers than he had points. It just was not good. It's been a bad shooting stretch for the Longhorns. They have the players, and they're known for their guard play. Well, their guard play is turning the ball over more than they're scoring, especially from the three-point line. So the only real contributor that we've had offensively is Kai Jones dunking the ball or Jericho Sims. You know, it's been down low in the paint, and Greg Brown has not been part of that at all. And he's you're the big 5-star blue chip recruit out of Austin. You're our go-to guy. You're our superstar. You're supposed to be a lottery pick, man. You got to step. The players have to take responsibility, and that's in the football program as well. I'm tired of it just solely being on the coaches. They're not performing out there. You know, no, they may not be calling timeouts at the right time or managing the game correctly, but the players also are not performing up to the level and the standard that they should be.
Tanner Carlson, a great follow on Twitter at Tanner Carlson20. Tanner, always outstanding. We'll do this again very, very soon.
And I'm sorry. Hey, I'm big on the draft. So any draft questions anybody has, I've already been looking at college prospects for the Cowboys.
We will talk draft on Thursday.
I'm already all aboard the draft train.
I need something football wise to look forward to. So
right.
May as well be the draft. At Tanner Carlson20 on Twitter. Go follow him now. Thanks, man. Outstanding.
Yep.
Coming up, Andy Everett, his thoughts on the Super Bowl and more. Some big golf news over the weekend as well. Andy's a big golf guy. We'll get into all that coming right up. We're with you till 9. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. You're listening to the Chris Duel Show.
I did watch some golf over the weekend.
Yeah, I heard that was pretty exciting yesterday.
I'm a big speed guy, but and he played well this weekend. But they actually had a decent amount of fans there.
Really?
It sounded like a good golf tournament.
Yeah.
It sounded good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it exciting. But Brooks Koepka, he nailed like a 40-foot chip, and it was like the loudest crowd noise I've heard since the pandemic started. I was like, all right, this is like a real sporting event.
Nice.
Anyway, all right, man.
Enjoyed it. Thanks.
I knew something looked familiar with the weekend's performance.
Shannon, what you sent me came out really tiny for some reason on my.
Oh, because you have a Samsung. I just tweeted the video on my Twitter if you want to watch it that way.
Cool. Thank you.
I just made me laugh. It's a joke on the. Hopefully, you've seen The Grinch, and hopefully, you remember that part in the performance. But it was really funny.
And of course, I try to play the audio on the PC here in the studio, and it's not playing. Great. I'll try to pull it from your Twitter here in a second on my phone.
All right.
Yeah, all right. I just saw it with the Grinch. Very funny.
I'm gonna be thinking about that all day.
Very funny.
I knew something looked familiar with the weekend's performance. I knew something looked familiar with the weekend's performance.
Oh, that's one other thing I need to check. Where is that? Is that Katie? A little Katy Perry for you. You know why we're playing Katy Perry, Shannon, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Andy's a super fan.
Andy Everett likes Katy Perry and ABBA. And I like ABBA, and I like Katy Perry as well. He is the voice of UTSA Athletics. He also hosts the golf show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio on Saturday mornings at 8. Andy Everett. Andy, how you doing this morning?
Better than the weekend.
I was going to ask. You didn't like it?
Let's start there, Andy. You weren't feeling the weekend last night at halftime.
On the TV, I wouldn't have known what he was saying.
Well, yeah, and that my first thought was, what is up with the audio? And as Shannon mentioned, while a lot of people, halftime acts will lip sync what we're doing, apparently that was live audio, and I guess that was a mistake.
I always thought the Super Bowl did everything lip sync because they wanted to make sure they didn't go over on time. But I guess get off my lawn. I'm too old for the weekend.
My favorite line, I heard somebody say, it was the first time I couldn't wait for the weekend to be over. So I can relate to that. Now, you're like me, you're a get off my lawn kind of guy. Were you down with Tom Brady winning, or like Shannon, do you root against Brady all the time no matter what?
No, I don't really have an NFL team that I like or dislike. I watch the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl. To me, I don't play fantasy football, so I don't gamble on football. So the first 12 weeks of the NFL season, if I have something better to do, I'll go do. And if I was more involved with it, I'm sure I'd feel a lot differently because I know that there's a lot of fun things that go on in that league. But I just have other things to do until about the middle of December, or when it's too cold to go play golf on a Sunday, and then I watch the games. And to me, I admire what Tom Brady's done. I mean, he's 43, I'm 57, so hey, I can still do some things, and I'm looking forward to being able to do them. And it all comes down to how much you want to sacrifice to be able to do it the way you do it. And Tom Brady sacrifices. Well, for him, it's not a sacrifice. To many of us, it would be the way that he chooses to live his life and the diet and exercise plan that he's on. But it allows you to win Super Bowls when you're 43. So kudos to him.
Yeah, to win it at 43 and to be playing at such a high level. Now, you, like me, lived through and saw and appreciated the Michael Jordan era of the Chicago Bulls. Is there any question now? Is Brady hands down in team sports the greatest GOAT of all time, surpassing Michael Jordan?
I think in team sports, absolutely he is. And I think I don't think you can judge team sports from individual sports because it does take a team to be able to pull that off. And I'm not necessarily in the camp that Jordan's the greatest of all time. I think he is amongst them. But I think that if you took the top 5 players by position in the NBA, Michael Jordan's the best two-guard there ever was. But I think there were times where Kobe Bryant was just as good. And I would love to have seen Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan go one-on-one. I know it would have been kind of like the Aztecs and the Incas. They wouldn't have stopped until one of them couldn't breathe anymore. And Jordan probably is the greatest. But he's only won 6. And Tom Brady's won 7. So Tom Brady is one better.
Now we talk about GOATs in team settings, GOATs in non-team settings. Tiger Woods clearly still leading the way in golf, but a Texas guy, Mr. Jordan Spieth, climbed his way up the leaderboard on Saturday. He ultimately didn't win this weekend's tournament. That went to Brooks Koepka, but we always seem to get excited when Jordan Spieth brings it back. He said he's feeling better than he has in a long time. Of course, after watching the Super Bowl last night, we know the Masters are just around the corner because CBS just kept pumping that, even though it's so strange because we just had the Masters in November. Can golf fans actually start to be excited about Jordan Spieth? And we all know he shows up for those big tournaments, but is he really on his way back to that dominant side that we saw from him just a few short years ago?
Which Harmon, your instructor, just to let him look at you for a couple of sessions. And I don't know what he whispered into Jordan's ear, but Jordan's played better golf ever since he had that conversation and those sessions with Butch Harmon. And Cameron McCormick's still his teacher, and Butch is going to, make a couple of grand to watch hit a couple of shots, or whatever that is. That's kind of what's playing. And even though he didn't win yesterday, Jordan Spieth still doesn't drive the ball straight. He never really did. But one of the things that we have to realize is that when he was winning the Masters and all of those things, he was 21 years old. And he really hadn't gone into his body, and he knew he needed to get a little bit longer in order to be able to compete year in, year out with guys like Bruce Kepka and Dustin Johnson and those guys.
Well,
more, he started doing things to get himself in that position, and now he's gotten there, and his swing is starting to catch up, I think. And he made a ton of putts on Saturday, and he didn't make very many putts on Sunday. So that was really the difference in him playing so well on Saturday and not winning yesterday.
Well, Texas fans surely rooting for Spieth to hang on and keep getting better, especially as we get closer to majors season. Now, one of my favorite commercials last night was the Paramount Plus. I love that they made it into a series, and every time they went to break, you'd get to see a new one. I thought they were really funny and creative with that. I was, however, surprised to see that they used Bryson DeChambeau as their athlete in those commercials. Bryson not really favored by a lot of golf fans due to his antics and his whole all my clubs are the same length, this, that, and the other. Did you see his commercial? And is this the new Bryson DeChambeau, a TV guy?
Bryson's kind of uniquely funny, and a lot of people like him. And a lot of people, my biggest issue with Bryson DeChambeau is I wish what he would do it quicker, because he's not a very fast player. I think any time that you see professional golfers play slow, it gives the general public the idea that it's okay to play slow. And it's not, because then it takes forever for somebody to get around the golf course. I think Bryce is great for the game. There was another topic that reared its head this weekend where the USGA and the RNA are trying to figure out ways to roll back the ball. And I think we're headed for bifurcation on PGA Tour, where they play a different set of rules than everybody else does, which I think is a terrible mistake. But Bryson is what people like to watch. And it's always going to be, if you can hit the ball out of the park, everybody wants to see home runs. Everybody wants to see 1-0 baseball games. And I don't think a lot of people want to see golf tournaments where the winning score is 400. I think they enjoy what we saw yesterday with birdies flying all over the place, but with the possibility of disaster looming any second. And Bryson's going to be able to do that because he's going to shoot 65 one day and 75 another day.
He is Andy Everett. In addition to his golf coverage, of course, he's the voice of UTSA athletics. And I noticed over the weekend, UTSA very successful at Florida International. In fact, that score was kind of jaw-dropping on Saturday, 90-47. Was UTSA that good, or was Florida International that bad to win a game with such a lopsided score on the road?
I thought you struggled a lot this year. I think they've lost 8 or 9 conference games now in a row. And Florida International is they're kind of the to give you a comparison, they're the Houston Rockets of the NBA. They shoot threes, they shoot layups, they don't shoot very many twos. So when you force them to shoot twos, they don't do it very well. And I thought it was the best defensive game plan and execution of said plan in maybe the 5 years I've seen with any defensive coach team. And not that he's not a great defensive coach, because he is. It's just sometimes you don't execute it as well as you did in that game, and the other team cooperate as well. I've always heard coaches talk about this, and this goes back to 30, 40 years ago. If you can get the other team to take uncomfortable shots, they're not going to make very many of them. And on the nights that they make their uncomfortable shots, oh well, you're going to lose. And UTSA did a phenomenal job in both games. 7-point win on Friday and the 43-point win on Saturday, making Floyd International shooting places they didn't want to. Every 3-point shot was contested. They ran them off the 3-point line, and they tried to make them shoot running jumper twos. And Florida International was terrible at it, and they missed a lot of them. And UTSA was able to get back the other way and score. And then Keaton Wallace had a terrific game on Friday, and Javon Jackson scored 16 of an 18-point run in the first half of the game on Saturday, and kind of gave them the knockout blow. Because they had a big lead at halftime, and they got into the second half. The Roadrunners have a great chance right now. They've won 5 out of their last 6, and they've got the next 4 of the next 6 at home. They're against good teams because they'll play UAB in a couple of weeks. They'll play Charlotte on the road in a couple of weeks. And they'll play a Florida Atlantic team this weekend that hasn't played in about 3 weeks, not because of them, but because of every team that was on their schedule had COVID issues. So they haven't played in a month almost by the time they get here. And so it'll be interesting to see how they're able to perform. Will they be rested or rusty? And UTSA continue the momentum.
And speaking of UTSA in San Antonio on Ticket 760, 7 o'clock tonight, Andy Everett, along with UTSA head basketball coach Steve Henson, the Steve Henson Show, 7 o'clock, Ticket 760 tonight. Andy Everett, a great follow on Twitter at Andy Everett 760. Andy, as always, great stuff, man. Thanks for taking the time.
By the way, did either of you hear the Kevin Harlan call of the fan running on the field?
Yes, we did. In fact, we might even, before we run out of time, we might be able to run that here. Yes, your thoughts on it?
That's radio going right there. Kevin Harlan does
you have it?
job with things like that happen.
All right, and I'll tell you what, Andy, thanks for joining us, Andy Everett. So that's a great cue for it. Jeremy has it. Here it's, as Andy just previewed, Kevin Harlan's call of the fan running onto the Super Bowl field last night.
Down 20, 5:03 to go. Someone is running on the field. Some guy with a bra. And now he's not being chased. He's running down the middle of the 40. Arms in the air in a victory salute. He's pulling down his pants. Pull up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants. He's being chased to the 30. He breaks a tackle from a security guard. The 20, down the middle of the 10, the 5. He slides at the 1, and they converge on him at the goal line. Pull up your pants. Take off the bra and be a man. Hands on hips at the other end of the field are looking at him and shaking their head and saying, why, oh, why is this taking place in a Super Bowl?
A great call by Kevin Harlan, and kudos to Andy Everett for reminding us to play that audio. Shannon, I will never understand why you're guaranteed to go to jail.
Yes.
For your little 10 seconds of ridiculousness, and I guess you want to be on video and be able to tell your buddies for years, I was that idiot.
Yeah, I got arrested. Congratulations. And I did it on purpose. I'm glad the TV coverage cut away from it.
Good, yeah. So this dude can't point to it on TV. But right. Great call by Kevin Harlan. We were asking people in the poll question this morning, Shannon, is Tom Brady the greater GOAT than Michael Jordan? Where does our voting stand?
Because our polls are final in all things, it does appear that Tom Brady is the greatest GOAT of all time over Michael Jordan with 57% of the vote.
Very, very cool. And we didn't get to it, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about it tomorrow. How about Drew Pearson in the Hall of Fame?
Finally!
Huh? Whoa!
Finally, that's the overall consensus from everybody, which just shows you that it was long overdue.
Yes, we'll get Drew back on the show and congratulate him, and we'll talk about the experience.
He owes us an apology, by the way. 'Cause he
Explain
knew.
that. Yeah.
He knew. They alerted everyone beforehand.
But he was sworn to secrecy.
He did a great job.
Yeah. The video was so
But I still
cool.
feel cheated.
Yeah. We'll let you wag a finger at him. We'll get him back on here and we'll get him on the video so you can wag your finger at him. Our thanks to Shannon Salty Sweeney. Outstanding as always. Jeremy Fouts, great job. Swashbuckler, soothsayer, anthropologist. Our thanks to Andy Everett and Tanner Carlson. I always wanted to call him Tucker Carlson. I don't know what's wrong with me. We will see you in 21 hours. Enjoy your Monday. Hasta la vista, baby.